This is Nick Williams with Temple of Geek, and today we're reviewing Episode 3 of The Acolyte called The Destiny. This will contain spoilers, so make sure you've seen the episode before watching this review. So to sum up the first couple episodes, there's somebody who's trying to kill Jedi. We find out there's twins. The twins are named Osha and May, and both of them think the other is deceased. May is the one going around killing Jedi, and Osha is the one who's blamed for it initially. Eventually, the Jedi figure out that Osha is innocent, and May is the one that is actually killing the Jedi. What we find out is that the Jedi who are initially involved in rescuing Osha are the ones being targeted. And there are 4 in total. We've got Indara, Sol, Kelnaka, and Torben. Now that brings us to episode 3 of what actually happened 16 years ago. This entire episode takes place on Osha and May's home planet, Brendok. Osha and May and their mothers are part of a coven of witches. That's right, coven of witches. Now, this isn't the first time we've had witches in Star Wars. We've had the Night Sisters for the entire Clone Wars show, and we also see them in Ahsoka. But this is a different coven of witches that we don't have details on. But what it does sound like is that they've been hunted down and they're basically refugees. That they've been persecuted for how they live and how they use the Force. The main mother of the witches and the mother of Osha and May is Mother Aniseya. When we meet Osha and May, it is on the day of their ascension. The ascension is a ritual where they vow to continue the secrecy and the traditions of their coven. Now, May is super excited to take the ascension. However, Osha really doesn't want to. We also find out that the 4 Jedi that we mentioned before are on the planet and actually keeping an eye on the girls. We also find out something interesting about their mothers and how Osha and May came to being. We find out that Coral, the Zabrak on the right, carried the twins. But we also find out the mother made the twins somehow. It's very vague on what that is, but essentially there is no father. We do get the idea that the witches deal in dark magic, just like the Night Sisters, which is probably why they've been persecuted. So just like the Sith, some would consider it unnatural. During the Ascension, May pledges her allegiance with enthusiasm. However, Osha hesitates, but that is when the Jedi show up. The Coven unsuccessfully try to hide the twins. When the twins are revealed, the Jedi essentially demand that they are able to test them to be Padawans. They insist that they do not steal children, but they also insist that they can test them. The mothers do agree to the test, but I think that is to quell any possible violence. Just before the Jedi test the twins, May forces Osha to promise to lie to the Jedi, which of course May does. But when Osha is tested, she's tricked into revealing that she is Force sensitive, but she does end up telling the truth and also reveals that she does want to be a Jedi. When Osha and May return to the temple, Osha reveals to her mother that she does want to become a Jedi, and May is furious. Before a final decision can be made, May locks Osha into her room. And in her rage, May starts a fire that seemingly destroys the temple. Osha is able to escape the room, and during her evacuation, we see Osha and May on other sides of a bridge. With the temple falling apart, May ends up falling, and as Osha starts to fall, we see the Jedi Master Sol catch Osha. As Master Sol and Osha are evacuating the temple, everyone is dead. The next time we see Osha, she's on the Jedi ship, and they're all heading to Coruscant. The last shot of the episode is May alive, unsure what happened to Osha. Overall, I thought the episode was just all right. I enjoyed the story behind it. It was the execution that I had issues with. The flow of the episode didn't feel organic to me. But I have to say, the best thing about this episode was the standout performance by Jodie Turner-Smith. Absolutely phenomenal. Jodie Turner-Smith had one of the best performances of this show. One of the difficult things about judging this episode is that we don't have the full story yet. This is still from a certain point of view. Before the show started, Leslye Headland said that they would not be showing the Jedi in a great light, and this episode definitely does that. The Jedi are definitely suspect in their approach to this coven. It feels like they say one thing, but then act a different way. And we hear how beholden the Jedi are to the Republic based on what Master Indara was saying. This episode is very much through the lens of Osha. We see this story through her eyes. But what we're missing is the story through May's eyes. What happened from May's point of view? We don't really see what brings her to so much anger without seeing her side of the story. So when it comes to May locking Osha in the room and setting the fire, it doesn't give us the full picture because it seems a little bit extra, a little bit out of the blue. But as we gather from the first 2 episodes, there's still more to this story. There's still something that happened with the Jedi that we don't know yet. Because in this episode, it's very hard to believe that one little fire destroyed everything. I really think there's more to that. And the fact that Master Soul was already there indicates that the Jedi might have had a part in the destruction of that temple. Some things that were harder for me to digest in this episode was that the way the coven went about their rituals felt more theater to me than Coven of Witches in Star Wars. And the flow of the storytelling didn't feel very organic to me. But at the end of the day, the performance from Jodie Turner-Smith made it all worth it. I think in a later episode, we will get some of this story in a flashback, but from May's point of view, or maybe from one of the Jedi. I do feel like this episode is going to be very divisive online, but not necessarily for the episode itself. As for myself and Temple of Geek, we will continue to talk about the episodes themselves. I feel like it's important to discuss the nuances of an art form. So thank you for joining me for the Acolyte Episode 3 Destiny. We will see you next week for Episode 4.